a complimentary pick. That's a repetitive pick. And and look, I don't know enough about these kids to say one way or the other, but other people who should know were saying that there was forward scoring skill on the board or available when we drafted, and that's where we're lacking. So that I don't get that. I don't get that at all.
And give me your take on this too. So my thought is, well, it's Flair running the draft again, so that's
Right.
just what it is. But here's the thing: if you're Paul Fenton, you can veto anything that those guys do. You're going to fire them in a year anyway.
Right.
So just veto it and say, no, give me some skill. Like you're running the draft, but give me skill over this safe guy.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Yeah. Based on what you're saying, like we should be less disappointed or less, I guess, frustrated with Flair making that pick than with Fenton not overruling him, because we should expect that from Flair. That's what he's done.
Right.
Is make that safe pick. So that shouldn't have been a surprise that that's the guy he wanted. The frustrating thing is Fenton comes in as an opportunity to change the script a little bit here, and he apparently was unable to do that at least in the first round.
Right.
I'm more excited about the McBain pick than any other pick they made.
I'm excited about McBain and the Russian kid. Those two picks I'm excited about. The rest of them, I don't know. I mean, the Russian kid, it sounds like if he wouldn't have gotten sick, would have been a top 15, top 20 pick. So I don't know. I mean, just don't go to the Dominican Republic the year you're getting drafted and get hepatitis A. But whatever. Like, that's water under the bridge for him at this point. Just work hard and get back to that player. And then the Wild, maybe they hit a home run there. But to your point, why not try and hit that home run with better talented kids or less black marks on them with that 24 pick? But whatever, And then I hear that they might trade Zucker, and we were the slowest team in the NHL last year, and you're going to trade our fastest, most skilled player,
our only fast guy. Now,
yeah.
I guess to me, I'm not willing to jump on that until I see the complete body of work this summer. Because if he trades him, that'll stink in and of itself. But then it'll only matter if he doesn't replace him from a speed and production perspective. So
and that's fair. That's absolutely fair.
But yeah, I mean, the optics of it, to where I got to with the trades that we're apparently going to see at some point is, at this point, given that there's going to be, he's been directed to tweak the lineup to try and make them competitive now.
Yeah.
To me, if you're not going to do a complete overhaul, so we're going to have one or two of that core youth guys, Granlund, Coyle, Niederreiter, Zucker, whatever. Let's say we're going to have, at least one or two of them are still going to be here next season because we're only tweaking, we're not overhauling. If that's the case, then I'm willing to trade the guy who brings the best return. The one or two guys who bring the best return. So you can assume that Coyle's at the bottom of that list just because he's got two broken hands, or both of his arms fell off this year. So so let's say he brings the lowest return. So that means I'm going to assume that if that's the case, then we're going to see Charlie next year in the Wild uniform. But if the one or two guys that bring the best return include a Zucker, then that's what he's been told to do is to tweak, and I'd rather lose one of those guys and hopefully bring back enough to fill a couple of holes than lose all of them. And I don't really even care if we lose all of them. I mean, look, I'm not tied to anybody on this roster at this point.
Yeah, and that's fair because the way I look at it too, the thought when they fired Yoel was his messages and getting through to the young guys they're not developing. Fair, they didn't develop. Well, now you bring in Boudreau. Different voice, different mindset, different coach, still not developing. So it's obviously on them at this point. They probably are what they are. So maybe you just move on, trade what you can trade, and start over. And the problem is I haven't heard them attached to any free agents, and I don't know if that's because Fenton's just tight-lipped, but they're not really attached to any free agents. Tavares is attached to Dallas and Nashville. Dallas and Nashville made his top 7. If he ends up there, good luck.
Yeah.
I mean, you got Dallas and you add Tavares and you keep Ben and Sagan and Klingberg. And,
forget it.
And you could say the same thing about Nashville.
Yep.
Like now the Wild go from a playoff spot to not.
Yeah.
You know,
And now
especially if
you're
he goes to
effectively,
Dallas.
and then you're
Yeah.
effectively rebuilding. But maybe see that my pet theory is, given Leopold's edict to not rebuild, not do a rebuild, the only way to, and still our lack of high-end skill, the only way that we're going to bring in high-end young guys is if we set up a team that's not rebuilding, right, in the summer, start the season, and then have a couple guys get hurt, and then a couple guys underperform, and all of a sudden we miss the playoffs, and then you can sell at the deadline, and then you can get some high picks and that type of thing. Like, that's the only way that's going to, if we're not allowed to plan for the season that way. It's got to be because the season went sideways. And so, if part of that is because the rest of the division gets strong for a year or two, I don't see this as it is right now. This team isn't a contender right now, but obviously the team will be different when we get to September either way. But the point is, maybe the other team's getting a little bit farther away from us, or catching us in the case of a Dallas who didn't make the playoffs last season, but was it's not like we did a lot better in the final outcome.
Right.
Maybe the thing is, okay, so they get a couple other players, they pass us, and then all of a sudden we can get to that scenario by default where we're sitting in 10th place in March, and Fenton goes, look, I mean, this is an opportunity to really, to make some change here by jettisoning some of these guys who are going to be, UFAs next season or whatever it is.
Right. Well, the problem I think with, where I agree with Leopold, and it's not from a season ticket holder standpoint. I just want him to be good. I want to see a cup in the near future. So I don't really care what it takes to get there. But like, I think that you got to pick the right year to rebuild too. I mean, Pittsburgh picked the right year. They got Crosby. They got Malkin. Right. Chicago did the same thing with Taves and Kane. And like, if this would have been the year to rebuild, you don't get the number one pick, you're screwed. You're in another rebuild year, because you don't get Dahlin. And if there's not a year where there's 2 or 3 high-end guys, it's just tough to stomach that rebuild, because then what are you going to get? You're going to be taking a chance with the number 5 pick or the 4 pick because you didn't win the lottery, So...
Well, right, exactly. Or you got to hope that another team wanted that 5 pick and is willing to trade you something of value for it. But you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, I saw Cronman at the Athletic had put out a way too early, draft ranking for next year's draft, and so absolutely, and maybe that was Fenton's influence. Saying, hey, I've scouted enough, or in Nashville, we believe that next year's draft was a stronger or deeper draft or a stronger draft at the high end or whatever it was. And so let's just use our picks this year and we'll see where we end up for next year. The other thing that strikes me about the draft is, and the lack of trades is, if the reason trades didn't materialize is because he didn't like the offers that he was being given, and it was known that he's, it's known out there by the GMs that he needs to tweak, and so that puts him at a bit of a disadvantage. If he had trades on the table that he didn't pull the trigger on because he didn't think he was getting value, then frankly, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, me either. Yeah. Yep, I'm with you. The one thing that concerns me about Fenton, and I guess I don't know if it's a concern, but he's a lot like the Timberwolves, where they just seem to be super tight-lipped. And Russo stressed some frustration about it, but that's going to be kind of a bummer from a fan perspective and from a season ticket holder perspective. Like, one of the fun things with at least the Fletcher era was that you felt connected to the team and what was going on. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be a little frustrating if Mr. Fenton is so close to the vest, I guess,
Right. Yeah, and there isn't even the ability to have Russo interview him at the Star Tribune booth at the fair this year. So we won't even have that. We won't even have that as a metric.
Right. We need an athletic booth or something at the fair. Talk North. We got to talk to Jim.
There you go. We need a Talk North booth. That's exactly what we need. 100%. Malay would love that, because he's surrounded by corn dogs and stuff.
That's pretzels. Right. Yeah.
All right. So I don't. The other thing I don't care about as a Minnesotan is the number of Minnesotans that got drafted I mean, it doesn't make me feel better as a Minnesotan. Like, I don't care. Now, I mean, I understand that there's only a couple places in the country where that can even be a thing, but like, we celebrate these kids all the way through high school, probably through college, some of them all the way to 18, not yet, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't care about who Arizona picked in the 7th round is from Minnesota. It doesn't make any difference to me.
Well, and how many of those kids actually played high school hockey? I mean, yeah, they played it at some point, but I think a lot of them got drafted out of the National Development Program, or the USHL. So I don't know. I'm kind of with you. If I watch these kids play high school hockey, and if I watched them in the state tournament this year, that might change my tune a little bit, but I don't feel any connection to a lot of those kids just because they're not, like, they're from here, but they didn't play their hockey last year here. So, I mean, I didn't get to see them play type of thing. So,
yeah, it just feels like another sort of forced vestige of the provincialism that we already have as Minnesotans for Minnesota hockey. And
right.
I generally try to shy away from that. Now, I assume that there are people who totally get off on that, and so that's why those articles get written, but I am not that audience.
Yeah, me either.
All right.
In fact, nothing against Russo. I haven't even read the Minnesota kid article that he put out. I've read almost all their other draft articles, but I have not read the one on Minnesota kids. So yeah.
All right. So hockey. Couple interesting trades. The Caps trade, which basically was to clear space for Carlson, which we see they used to resign him.
Yeah.
$8 million, 8 years. In a contract year, the guy sets career highs in goals, assists, and points. Obviously, therefore, he was tied 8th in the league for defensemen with 15 goals, but he was only 2 goals behind the leaders. He was tied for 3rd in the league for defensemen for assists, and he was 1st overall in the league for points as defenseman. That's a pretty good contract year.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he obviously cashed in on it.
Yeah, he absolutely cashed in on it. The one that kind of surprises me, and we probably never had a chance at him just because we're flyover country, but Kovalchuk, I thought his deal was pretty team friendly.
Yep.
At something like $3-some million.
3 and 3, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of surprised me because I think that's a way that you could cap friendly, make a splash in free agency and add some high end talent.
Yep.
And I would have liked to see the Wild try and get in on that because they do have the Parise connection with Kovalchuk, but maybe they just were never in the game. Maybe they checked in and weren't in the game. But I'd love to hear Russo's take on that.
Totally misspoke. It was 6.25 for 3 years. So 6.25 per though for 3 years. So that's a big number.
That's bigger, yeah. Yeah.
And it's a 35-year-old plus contract, which means they're on the hook for all of it. The thing I have heard, and I don't remember if it was Russo or somebody else, and I don't know if this was fact or whatever, but is that is he the one whose wife is a model and wanted to be in LA for that reason? Something like that?
Could be, and yeah, I mean, that wouldn't surprise me. Yeah. I don't know enough about him to know that to be true, but yeah, that makes some sense.
I do like. It does make me happy to hear that. I think it was Tavares said that he is not interested in going to St. Louis, so that's good. That's one Central team who also will not be getting him, so that's great.
Yeah.
And then the other big trade, of course, was the Calgary-Carolina trade. I know Dougie Hamilton's real good, but I kind of feel like Calgary won that trade.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. Like, I don't know enough about the other guys. My thought initially on almost every trade is whoever gets the best player won the trade. But if you got to give up 3 above average assets to get one Dougie Hamilton, then you could argue that three really solid players that are going to be in your lineup.
Yeah.
Versus 1, yeah, that probably makes some sense. But usually on the surface, when I look at something, I'll always go. Typically, it seems like the team that gets the best player gets the best end of the deal. But I don't know enough about the guys that Calgary got from Carolina, so I just can't really comment on that part of it.
I admit I have a natural bias against guys who call themselves Dougie.
when you have a dance named after you, do the Dougie.
Yeah,
You shouldn't be a tough guy in the NHL.
yeah, something like that.